Uh, Welcome everybody. Jill and I are here again today for episode 4 of our podcast series. And I'm so happy to be here. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Janet. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Can I
Yeah.
start off by thanking everyone? I can't believe the positive feedback and the encouragement, how much people are really enjoying these conversations, just like we really hoped and I think in some ways expected that they would.
Mm.
Spiritual communities have been and members have been kind of talked down to or talked at for so long. And I feel like this conversational format is so conducive. And plus what we're offering is not basic. It's actually very advanced. And for those that have been on a spiritual experiencing journey, no matter how long, sort of feel like, okay, this is actually meeting me where I am or helping me kind of expand even more, which is either one is great.
Yes, I too have heard feedback. What I love, I mean, really positive feedback. What I love is that, I mean, I use a lot of words that are sort of woo-woo energetically out there because I serve a large population of people, right? And what I
Mhm.
love about this is we're not using the woo-woo words, and yet what's coming across vibrationally and what we're creating and what we are encouraging people to step into is very woo-woo, it's very expansive and advanced, meaning it's dimensional in its nature. And I love that because we don't need those kind of words necessarily. We will use them when it's asked, I'll say, or when it's
Mhm.
pertinent, or when it will add something. But I think that's why I get really excited about it because, as I've often joked, I can speak multiple languages. Whether that's, CEO business language or just people that are way out there or everybody in between. And that's it. Like everybody gets to have an experience here and everybody gets to be honored. And yeah, me too. The peer stuff, I was just like, yeah,
Love it. Mhm.
more of that. Okay. Oh, wow. So I just wanted to ask if there's anything on your heart about comments that you would specifically that might be topic related.
Mm.
That, and I also wanted to invite us to stay very current in terms of topic because there's so much opportunity for upshifting right now, and I want us all to take advantage of that. So
I'm
I have
trying to think
some.
of, oh yeah, go ahead. If you have a comment that you like, so you're talking like a YouTube comment or like an Instagram comment, right?
I
From
was referring
previous
more to
ones or
topic.
just,
Yeah,
oh,
but
okay,
if you
topic.
want to,
Topics. There
let's just,
isn't one that's really like jumping out at me on my heart. What about you?
yeah, I don't have anything. I just want to encourage people though, if they have something to add, because we really are wanting to co-create this. And if there's something that's really a burn for you on some level that you really want somebody to talk about, please put that out there, and we will happily, consider that for something that we can use here. And because I'm sure if it's something that's on your heart, it's probably on the heart of others too. Whew.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking through some of the comments that we've received, and so far the comments haven't been as much about like new topic ideas that we go into, but I just want to really welcome anyone to offer those. But gosh, there's so many things that we could talk about. I think I did start to make a list though. Janet, what about you? Do you have a list of
Um,
things that you may want to talk about today?
I do. The one thing I'll
Okay.
share, and we'll see if we want to go here. When you're flying and they talk about the oxygen masks.
Mm.
So I was just, lightly contemplating if there's something that would be useful for us to talk about, bring it on. Like I'd like to hear about it. And so this idea of oxygen masks came up. And first off, it was, do you have yours on? Did you put yours on first? Right? And that's
Mm.
a really great metaphor. But then the question came up, where are the oxygen masks? And do we need them now?
Mm.
And what that represents, because there's
Mhm.
a lot going on in our world right now, and I've talked and worked with people on all different spectrums of experience. And, what that means to me is, when you think about an oxygen, like why you would need one,
Mm,
why you would need an oxygen mask, and is that something that you think you need now?
mhm.
You know, I know
Yeah.
we're post-election. So anyway, I'm gonna throw that out there, and then the metaphor that so it's kind of a dualistic or a two-part thing. Like, if we need it, considering what's happening, and that has a lot to do with our own personal connection.
Mhm,
Have we been depressurized as a society? What does that look like? Is that a good thing? And that even, brought up the idea of, like, maybe we just talk a little bit of generalities about how we feel about what's happening in the world, because there's a lot of people, and we don't have to go specific, but,
mhm.
I have some very solid beliefs about what's happening, and it's not dire. It's incredibly
I like
optimistic.
that. I feel like that's good. I just realized that somebody, and I did make a note to myself on potential topics, somebody had asked in a YouTube comment about
Yeah.
tips and strategies for deeper connection with, and this is their term, with our higher self. I would call it our source energy, and I would also call it God. So that's another one maybe that we do at another time. But I'm glad you're bringing this up, and you've offered this up before in terms of what's our take on really current events and current things that are going on. So I like your dedication that that is something that feels very relevant. My head goes to, I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's so many things. So I feel like you have a specific, like on this topic or on that topic, and I will gladly follow your lead on that because I I do love to offer something, a different perspective, a different take about something that others are interpreting as definitely negative, whether it's AI or whatever. Like, oh, Jill, that's definitely going to, take humanity down. And I'm like, is it though? you know. So I love to sort of lighten up topics that are very serious and are very relevant and are very current. So I like this idea.
Okay, great. So this is really what's been on my heart, is that because I feel so much sort of chaotical energy, because I'm sensitive, right? Empathic, as I know you are. And so I work with the energies. And I tell you, the week of the presidential election, was that
Hmm.
just last week? I was very busy, like holding space and doing what I do energetically because there was so much happening. And so, in general, I just wanted to say how excited I am about these times.
Mm.
And I know we can look at what's happening between the wars or the natural disasters or any of these things. And depending on your perspective on that, people could go really low and get depressed. And even with the results of the presidential election, I know a lot of people that struggled with that.
And
And
probably are struggling with that, right? The people that I
that's
know that were more, devotedly and excitedly even voted for like Harris Waltz or, somebody else that lost. There is this, I mean, some are in a full-on depression. And I feel like I was trying to do this actually with a loved one last night, just giving another take on that entire thing. So yeah, should we talk about the election first?
let's start
And
there.
then maybe Hamas and Israel and everyone else that's getting involved in that conflict. We could also talk about AI today. Um, is there another one that you'd add on to it?
Um, no, I think that's
Okay,
full. I think that's a full
okay,
plate right there.
okay. And I guess I want to start off by saying hugs to everyone that's excited about the election. Those in a spirit-based community like this might be very shocked to know that some people were actually happy with the outcome of the election. It's so common, and I'm acknowledging that this is a US based topic, but as I've talked about before, there are individuals that are part of the community from all over the world, number one. And number two, there are individuals from all over the world that are very interested, very informed and very much care about what US what US politics is doing. So please just we're not being blind to the fact that, oh, you guys are more than just in the US. So that's the first part. But we can also have blinders on, I find, within even spirit-based communities about, well, everybody thinks about these things just like I do. And that's definitely not true. There's so much variety and heterogeneous thinking and beliefs about multiple things. And it's just good to know that.
Very much
Mm.
so. I would put an exclamation point on that.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily need to share a lot of my personal beliefs. It's not that I'm
me
afraid to
either.
share
Yeah.
them, but I don't want to influence anybody in a way that might affect a certain thing because that's not what's important. You
Mm-mm.
know, what we're offering is how you get to navigate your world in a better way that you can have more internal peace and feel better from the inside about what's happening. And
Mm.
I know people that have voted for both of the candidates. And I also wanted to add just a little bit. I know this is the US election, and this conversation we are having is applicable to any situation where there are polarized camps, and that is happening in every country and in
Mm.
every community, whether you're talking about the school board, whether you're talking about how you do your make your cupcakes for your kindergarten class, and how the parents of the PTA might not agree on that, to very worldwide issues. So it applies to everything.
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 Anything where you feel like, well, there's definitely a right answer here, that's in the context of what we're talking about. That's is the definition of polarity, just in case anyone needed that definition.
Good ad, and I would also wanna say this, I very much wanna bring in the idea of savior, and people I can feel like how the election affects the collective, right? And so when I tap into that, I can feel that people where their candidate won feel like they are smooth cruising. And what I feel like is now we're just getting started on addressing some really fundamental things that have not been working in our world. And I think both camps would agree they haven't been working. I think the idea about how to solve it is differs between the camps, but the people that their candidate won, holy cow, do not assume that your candidate is going to do everything perfectly because of course that will not happen. This is planet Earth. Remember, it's planet Earth. And nobody has a level of perfection running. And that doesn't mean that we get to not take responsibility for how we feel, for not taking responsibility for looking at the actual decisions that are being made and being really clear about how we feel about it when we disagree with our candidate. And that's something that's been really lacking in politics in general. And so it's important, you know,
Mm, I agree.
we are not saved.
What
But
I
yeah, in
hear
that
you
way.
saying, Janet, there, and I'm so glad you brought it up. What I hear you saying is for anyone on any side of any issue where you feel like that person or that group, they're going to fix it, they're going to make it better, they're going to rescue us, or any of those, any form of that, just give yourself a little pause and go, or not. I hope, but I'm not going to fantasize that they have more power, more authority, more ability than they actually do. They've told me they can fix it. They've told me they can solve it. And I hope they do, but they may not. And I
Mhm.
don't want to hinge my sense of well being or the world's well being on that person or that group because that
Mhm.
is just expecting way too much. And that's why I like your word of savior, because it is savior-ish. They will save us from, right?
Mhm.
That's problematic, and it gives away a lot of your authority, gives away
Mhm.
a lot of your power. And I don't feel like we're as conscious of doing that in the moment. And if we're continuously in the habit of, yes, now I have another person I'm going to look up to, and that's going to say this, they are going to fix it. If we keep doing that, we are continuously, it's almost like an energy leak, and we don't realize it. We keep feeling like, yes, I'm hopeful now because of this person or that idea. And we just keep kind of putting the bill in a way off versus how can I feel as whole and complete right now with whatever that mess is, being as messy as it is. And that's mastery. That's mastery. It's not conditional. It's not based on a future event. It's not based on a savior type person. It's based on everything you are right now and have access to. And that is empowerment. That is sovereignty. That is godly. And to me, that's exactly what a lot of embodiments of light, including Jesus, I feel were actually trying to tell us and help us connect with because they knew. They had the full awareness, exactly like we're talking about. Like, this is a messy place that we're in right now. So I know there's an inner child that's like, but it is going to get better and they're going to fix it. If we just can get that person in the right, with the right, authority in that office, then everything will be wow. And there's just this inner child fantasy that's in there that can be kind of sold to in a way, and it's a fabrication, it's a lie. It's I want it to be true too, but there's a realism that we can have as adults that is so much more empowered and so much more centered in ourselves, and it's independent of who gets elected. It's even independent of who's running. That's good. That's so much better than staring at a list of candidates on a ballot that's just like, this sucks.
Yes, yes. And I know the night of the election, I was literally speaking this very thing. I don't know who I was talking to, but I'm running around my place. It's not about that. It's not about who
Mhm,
wins. It's because when we hold that level of our own inner authority and our own light, it
mhm.
shifts things on the outside. It always
That's right.
has. It always will. And
Mhm,
I want to just put in kind of a more mundane example of this because I have run into this so many times in my life, and I had a lot of rentals and did remodels back in the day. And so this happened almost with every single contractor I had, where I wanted to hire somebody that I could just let do their job. And every time I did that, I was like, oh, I got so frustrated because there was something that they did incorrectly. There was something done, they made a decision for me without asking me that made a difference on the overall, project. So and I can't tell you the number of times I went through that lesson. It's the same dynamic.
such a perfect example, Janet.
And I mean, sometimes I wonder if it's just because my sister talked about this in a recent example in her life about is it that I just like, why is it that I find the inconsistencies in people's work? Why is that? Is that my purpose here? To when people say they're going to do something and we have a contract to do it, to notice to them when they don't? And it's the same dynamic. It's about showing up and really getting out of that. A lot of that is that child, like a lot of people, if they haven't done their inner healing work or have trauma, those electromagnetic charges from their childhood, they haven't learned or considered. Some of it can be very simple, that it's that somebody's got to save me, because I can't do it. And that was what was true as a child, and it's not now. Like we are adults.
Did you just say, "I need somebody to soothe me"? Soothe?
I said save, but did it sound like
Say
sue?
I sometimes my hearing is not the best, and I thought I heard in the AirPod, but I wasn't sure, but I like either word.
I
Somebody
might have
I
said
need
that
somebody
too.
to save me, but soothe works too, and I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure I heard you correctly because it's what you just said is
Huh,
very
that's
important.
interesting. Sometimes, like when I sort of channel, because I don't know exactly what I said, so both could have been.
They both fit. They both fit well with what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
are you okay if we give some specific strategies and maybe we do use the one where it's a contractor or something as a, when you were, the landlord basically, or the investment investor of a property that you were trying to improve for sale.
Mm.
How do we handle disappointment? How do we handle facing when somebody has overpromised and underdelivered? Um, let's give some is are you okay going that direction? How many, specific what do you do when that happens?
Well, I think the first thing is to take stock of what actually happened. I can trace mine back
Mm,
every single time to an intuitive nudge I had, whether it was that's not the right person to hire, whether that was I'd be in the middle because we had a lot of properties at one time, and I'd be in right in the middle of something, and I'd hear go check on them, and I wouldn't do it, but I would feel it. It's like my body almost went without my. So when we take a true inventory of that situation and come to terms with the information that we had available to us at that time, that's the most valuable thing that I can do right there. Now, does that
yeah.
mean I don't need to clean up a mess? Doesn't mean that.
Mm-mm. It
You know,
doesn't mean you can prevent the mess either, which we talked about in I think it
it
was
doesn't.
episode 3.
It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that. I mean,
No.
sometimes I'm the one that people are. I mean, I see this with practitioners sometimes. This is kind of a, I don't, I'll share it because it came up as an example.
Yeah, good.
Sometimes when I go to practitioners to get work done, I feel like I am doing work with them. And then I
Mhm.
just kind of go, God, really? Like, you want me to help this person, but the way that you want me to help them is to pay them for a service
Mhm.
where they perhaps may receive more than I could be receiving. Not that I'm keeping track.
It's
So
okay if you're the one paying the bill, it's okay to keep track. And just to I'm imagining some people that maybe aren't as involved in conversations like this, they may not know that when you say a practitioner, you mean a spiritual practitioner, an energetics practitioner. So I just wanted to offer that
yeah,
context for somebody that may
yeah,
not
thank
know
you.
what you mean there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I think that also applies to contractors or people that we might, go to. I mean, the dentist that I went to, who I did all my due diligence, did all and I realized I was taking a risk because she had no reviews on Google, right? And she had a bum up job on my tooth. And I was like, okay,
Dang it.
okay. And I can accept that today. And I hope, I mean, I did the right things. I went and taught and I showed up and I showed up and I showed up. And I think that's what we get to do is to continue to show up, to stay out of the blame game, to own my experience. We agreed on this, this didn't happen, to get the charge out of it. And then sometimes miraculous things happen in that process
Hmm.
because most people are ready for a fight.
Yeah. And trying to get somebody to like, I just want you to admit you messed up. That is in so many ways pointless, right? And I appreciate the layers of us that want that. Like, I just need somebody to say they're sorry. I need someone to say, yes, it's my fault. Sometimes we don't get that.
Yes.
So I'm almost feeling like the first step that you mentioned, I totally agree with. If you have an inner instinct of any kind, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant, anything in you that says, I'm concerned, or I don't know if I should trust this person, or maybe I should wait before I make a decision, or call this person, check in on this thing that I'm trusting someone else to do. Definitely follow that instinct that you have. That doesn't have to be woo woo, that's just real.
Mhm.
Number two is be real with yourself about what's going on.
Mhm.
Right? What is really going on? Your tooth did not get handled appropriately by that dentist. Your
Mhm.
project did not get sufficiently taken care of in the manner that they had told you they would or that they should have given what you hired them to do. Right? So there's just this, okay, so if it is what it is, what is it? Right? What is it? What's really going on? and really being honest with yourself about that. That's a self process. It doesn't require anyone else to admit anything, acknowledge anything. It's not even about anyone else but you. What is the situation from your take on things, right? That's like number 2. Follow your instinct, do what you can to vet someone else, etc. And number 2, when it is what it is, really letting yourself sit with whatever it is. Let yourself address any soothing that you need to be like, damn, this sucks. Whatever that is for you, just let yourself be real, right? Going back to the politics part, I remember a lot of people being very disappointed when Guantanamo Bay wasn't shut down by Obama. And that was a major part of his
Mhm.
platform literally for winning his first term was Guantanamo Bay is not okay. It's not abiding by the US Constitution. It's not on US soil for a reason. It doesn't fit our international agreements with our allies. And this is not like us. This is out of the spirit of what we hope to be. And he couldn't shut it down. And there was this sort of like, yeah, we can't talk about that anymore because he realized and his administration that he put into place realized, oh yeah, I guess we don't have authority to shut that down. Like, wait, what? I thought you were the US president. Oh, you don't have the power to do things that you promised us you would do? Oh, okay, right? So sometimes it's just kind of shushed under the rug. Yeah, we're not going to just pretend we never said it, right?
Mm,
And for
mm,
some of us that hold ourselves to a high level of accountability, that can
mm,
be very frustrating, right?
mm,
So in that disappointment, right? I mean, think about that word disappointment. We appointed
mm,
someone in our hearts and in our minds to a job, to a role, to take care of something. And then they dissed us. So we were disappointed, we were discontent with an appointment that we had made in our hearts and minds. So we just then it's important that we go, okay, so well, that didn't go the way I thought it would. Now, what do I was going to say, what does this mean to me? But I would really edit that. What do you want that to mean to you? Do you want that to mean that your life is over? That Guantanamo Bay is literally still functioning as 2024? Do you want that to mean that your entire sense of well-being of this world and you in this world is just like down the toilet? Do you want to be that dramatic and catastrophic? Or do you just want to be totally bummed about it? That is not okay. It should not be that way. Or whatever opinions and values you have about that. Just let yourself be angry, let yourself be sad, let yourself be confused, let yourself feel all the feels related to any of that so that you can start being real with all the layers of you, right? And then my fourth part is what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? What can anyone do about it? If this is bigger than you, then it's very beneficial to have a part of you going, I don't like that. I'm not putting my name on that as I like it. I don't like it. I'm not going to pretend to like it, but I'm also not going to pretend that it means more to me than me living my life, than me being an amazing mother or father or neighbor or citizen. I'm not going to let that thing that I actually don't have hardly any, maybe none at all, control over. I'm not going to let that be more relevant than it has to be, given all the other authority I do have in my life and how I let myself be in this world.
mm.
Yeah. What would you add to that, Janet, as your method?
Wow. Whew, I just want to take a breath on that. This is
Mm,
such a good conversation. When things like that happen, I agree with not being in denial about any of it and not being afraid to talk about it. That's that closed system.
mhm,
Can't call authority figures out, so to speak, when they say one thing and do another, right? And there's something about in my heart, what I do is I put in, it's sort of a prayer, and some people could call it how you manifest, even, or the true law of attraction, where I hold in my heart a world that can have a system of government where people say, they do what they say, and if they can't do what they say why they can't do that, and then they open up other possibilities, right? So there's something about opening that up and holding that, because I firmly believe that's possible. I think we're far from it today, and I think that we can create that in our own organizations. And then the other thing I'll add is, and you said this, but I want to add a little bit of maybe more depth to it. I look at the times that I have told people I'm going to do something and I don't. I am no different than that man that promised that thing and then didn't come through. And how did I handle that? And did I clean that up? And when I do that internally, that opens up possibilities for everyone else to do the same thing, because that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're in a public position.
Mm.
And a lot of times I offer gratitude that I am not in that sort of public role because it's very tough. And so it's where my values, I get to operate with them, because I guarantee you I will find one. I could find one right now. And I was like, did I clean that one up? And I'm pretty good about it because I know that's how we internally change the world. And then I will talk to my neighbors and my friends and say, why do you think that is? And get other opinions about it. So I'm not so locked in, so it doesn't kind of destroy me. And there might be things I learn about that position, or there's something about how the government has been operating. Whether it's right or wrong is not necessarily relevant, but I get some other perspectives on it. So that electromagnetic charge just dissipates.
It's big. I love what you added, Janet. And I feel like for some individuals that are very loyal to the, let's say, conventional law of attraction,
Mm,
where they may hear you as saying, yeah, that's true. If you're asking someone else to hold themselves accountable as a leader, it's the first step should be, where am I a leader and I'm not holding myself accountable? And I feel like their interpretation, there's some there's some things I want to point out to individuals that are resonating with that. It's very common in what I've seen in my client work that some individuals have this expectation that, yes, if I address my portion of needing improvement in that area or growth, and when I fix this, then that will fix itself too,
mm,
because we're all connected, because, we're all one, and, all these other sort of belief systems. And it's not that simple. Just because you handle your version of that does not mean it will have, a through line to the other end of that you were first triggered by or noticing. It doesn't mean that that other thing is going to be fixed. It just means that you are keeping your energy field in integrity, in honor of yourself and the source energy you are, to the degree you can. And that's just a good thing to do. But don't connect it with, and then it will fix that other thing that you have no control over.
mm,
But I love that you added that step because it is so important. A related kind of example of that, I remember there was an instance where somebody, I think they had borrowed like just money from me or something. They're like, can you cover this? And then I was like, wow, that is like, they're like dodging me. They owe me
mm,
this money and they're not paying me back, and that doesn't feel good. And there was a moment where I thought to myself, is there anyone that I owe money to that I haven't paid yet? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. It was several years ago. There's a
mm,
babysitter across the street, and I told her I would give her a check, and it's been more than 2 weeks now. And poor Michaela, she's 15 and she probably could use that money from the babysitting she did. So I immediately texted her. I was like, "Hey, Michaela, I'm gonna walk over the cash from when you babysat 2 weeks ago. Is that okay with you?" And she's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." So
mm,
did it fix the person paying me? No, it actually didn't. But it felt good that
mm.
just for me to take care of my own house, if you will, in that way. And it's just a good idea. So
Well, and I have So, I do think that it's not as causal as I do this and that changes immediately. And I do know that there is when enough of us sort of collectively make
Mm,
those changes within, it kind of turns hundredth monkey and then it does change
mm,
outer. So there is, in
mm.
my experience, I'll say, this is not theoretical for me because I've witnessed this,
Okay.
on many different occasions. And sometimes if it's depending how big the issue is, I have changed things within me and they have changed immediately on the outside. Now,
Mm,
does that mean that that always happens? No. Does that mean I can order it up like I order something on Amazon? No. But what that does mean is that it's very important to do because society, the collective, is it's all of us are a part of that.
mm,
We are all part of that. And there does come a time where the collective is just like, we are done with that, you know? Like, and it
mhm,
is kind of that hundredth monkey thing. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but they've done studies where one monkey gets a particular skill or learns something, then the second one gets it. And then by the time the hundredth monkey gets it, everybody in the monkey community gets it. And it just is sort of like, it just happens. And this has been measured and you can Google it. But it's sort of like an evolutionary jump that happens. And it's, not, I mean, you might feel it energetically, but it's not provable or measurable necessarily.
mhm,
But I have experienced that in my own life. And yeah, so people can, check that out for themselves. I mean, I do it for
mhm,
the reason because it's the right thing to do. And I know that it's in my authenticity and my integrity. And I know it makes a difference to the whole. I just don't know how long that'll take. I don't know what that will look like. But it kind of reminds me like when I stopped drinking, 30 some years ago, and then my mom quit smoking. And I was like, huh, is that related?
That's beautiful. I
I
love
think
that.
it
And
is.
yeah, and I love how there's that part of you that I don't want to say admits, but acknowledges that look, this doesn't it's we can't prove whether it's causal
Yeah.
or coincidental, but it's still a good thing that it happened, right? Even if we can't prove that it's causal.
Yeah.
I have to say, there's a part of me that I'm so glad we're doing this partnership, you and I, by the way, because there is a part of me going, I'm sure I could find some studies that discount this 100th monkey thing and that it's actually not scientifically sound, and that the study that came up with it was highly flawed, and just like the Dr. Emoto's water studies. I mean, I did a deep dive on that. I'm like, so it's not even true. I wanted it to be, it's kind of fun to think that it's true though. So there's a part of me going, I want it to be true. And I love the fact that you, as all the awesomeness that you are, believe it's true, that we can kind of play that series, that sequence of events, that if just enough of us do this, then it could have the 100th monkey effect.
Mhm.
There's a part of me that wants that to be true so much. And there's another part of me that's just like, but I don't want to rely on that because it doesn't always work. The universe, the cosmos may actually not
Mm,
always work that way. But I mean, cost benefit, if there's enough people trying to do the right thing, right, then that's a benefit. Does it have the effect we always want it to? No. If, 99 people get healthy in their gut microbiome, does that mean the world's gut microbiome is, oh yeah, we fixed everybody? I want that. I want to believe that's true. And for the people that did it, yay, because your gut microbiome has such a huge effect on your health, your suppression of diseases and infection, all those things. But does it fix everything? I don't think so, but it's
mm.
still a good thing. It's still a good thing to do.
Well, and
Anyway, I just had to admit my skepticism about some of that.
I super appreciate that. And is it, I mean, I have not done all the research on the hundredth monkey. I have I do have my own experience of that. And the one thing I
Mhm.
will say is that there is this, I don't know, inspirational thing that
Mm,
happens.
yes.
So even if the 100th monkey thing is like, maybe it's just the fact that somebody sees that there's a greater possibility or potential, and that can spread like wildfire in
Yeah.
a very positive and effective way.
Yeah, there's definitely studies just in terms of like property values that
Mm,
if a neighborhood comes up with a contest for like your landscaping
mm,
and your exterior of your home and they start to give little awards for like this is we've all voted and or those that have voted believe that this is the prettiest house on the street or the most improved on the street, that all of a sudden it starts to have a trickle effect, right? There are definite reasons to do the right thing and to
mm,
motivate and incent the right behavior. And I love the fact that you have so much credibility when you say, I've seen it work, Shell.
mm,
I don't doubt you for a second, Janet, that to
mm,
you this is real based on your experiences. I'm like, yes, yeah, that's good. You've been more involved in spiritual communities than I have. You literally have, as a
yeah.
member, as a leader, etc. So, as a facilitator of communities. So, when you say it, I'm like, I'm so glad to know
Mm,
that it actually works, at least in some cases.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of reminds me of when two or more are gathered and people's hearts are aligned in
Mm,
that way with a positive thing. There's something else that happens besides the two
mm,
individuals. And that's kind of the magic of, I'll call it God, right?
mhm,
That's
mhm,
the openness and there's something else that happens. And, which is why I like to gather in two or more.
mhm. I'm just making it out because I want to do that on another subject. And when two or more gather in my name.
Mm.
It can be another topic. Otherwise, I'll bring us right on a tangent on it right now.
Well, and I mean, that one too, I mean, that's in the Bible, right? Like that's like a
It is. It's
biblical thing.
biblical and Christian.
So
Hmm.
it's ancient. Like this is something that's been recognized. And I do think there is something about our heart coherence that happens, where we have an expansiveness of our God consciousness, whatever you want to call that frequency. Yeah.
But I put a pin in that one. That whole idea of how many does it take?
Yeah. How many does it take?
Okay, so staying on the topic, this very good topic of how do we live our light amidst current events? How do we live our lives against, when an election didn't go the way we wanted it to or felt like we needed it to? How do we handle that disappointment? How do we move forward? And I guess the next step I would offer people is what are you believing is true regarding that expectation?
Mm,
That was important to me because it's super important that you literally like write it out. I
mm,
needed this person to win the US election because
mm, mm,
they were going to do this or it meant this or if you're going to go the antithetical way, I couldn't have this person win because it would mean
mhm,
X, Y, and Z, and just really like write it out. And then the next step I would encourage people to take is what if that's not true? What if that isn't true? And there's humility in that, right?
mm,
So our hearts, our minds, mind, body, spirit may all have layers of connectedness to, yeah, that if that person wins, then that was going to happen and that was going to mean this. And if that person wins, it was going to mean that, that, and that. We can become very invested in a fictional story that isn't even real,
mhm,
but we're pretending it's real. So then when it goes the way we didn't want to, right, it can really start to fracture and fragment our sense of well being, our
mm,
sense of stability, our sense of optimism and hopefulness about the future. And I think one of the things, Janet, that you and I are both saying is there's a whole different way to operate you that isn't built in that way.
absolutely. It's people are looking to governments or outside sources for safety and security. And really, the essence of safety and security that's an inward journey. Now, that doesn't mean there's not, people that could steal your car if you left it running in a kind of a bad neighborhood, right? Like, that's not safe, right? Like, don't do those things, right? But in terms of like that internal safety, that internal knowingness, that internal guidance, that internal information, how do I create that within myself?
Yeah.
How do I create that in my family? How do I create that in my community? What
Mhm.
is a solution focus? What is a productive use of my life force
Mhm.
energy, my currency, my
Yeah.
God essence? And that is a very, when I start living from that inside out way, life can be looking very chaotic on the outside, and I can hold that peace. And that's the most valuable thing. I mean, I remember when my, ex had a major stroke, like lost, most of the left side of her body. And I remember at that time thinking, it's like, oh my God, what's happening inside of me? Like I'm so used to
Mm.
a level of internal peace that I am completely stirred up. And that was such an opportunity to me to go so deeply within myself and find that connectedness because that wasn't okay. Feelings were okay, but without that foundational essence, life's not okay. And I got, that was a big curve in my life,
Mm.
that was a big curve. And so that it's that internal.
Mhm.
And it's that's nobody externally is gonna save me. There is no savior. It's me. I get to create this. I am a brilliant creator here.
Mm.
Life does
And
support me. And that's a
and
big belief. People think life is
so
not here, and it's wrong, wrong, wrong.
and the primary creation of ourselves is us. It's each of us. You're the
Absolutely,
primary creator of you,
absolutely.
right? Do you remember any specific breakthroughs or realizations that you had that allowed you to get through your ex's stroke and just the
Yeah.
creating a sense of being okay? What was that? There
Oh
might
my
be some really important, relatable
oh, wow. I mean,
aspects of that.
I'll share one moment where she was still in the ICU and I there were so many emotions happening. I mean, it's an interesting situation because one moment your partner's cognitively there and you're able to communicate and bounce ideas off of, and the next moment she's not.
Mm,
And not only that, I'm sleeping in the ICU and
mm,
sleep is used very lightly in that case because there's so many things happening and that system is not easily she had some not necessarily complicated, but she had some medical things that they weren't hearing, and so there's some ways that I was advocating, and it was challenging, right? And so I remember my frustration really, built up, and I remember I'm in the ICU and a friend calls, and I was like, "This is where I took my frustration out. I'm in the ICU, and there's no effing Kleenex here. Don't they know people are upset? It's the ice." And I understand there's reasons why there weren't Kleenex there, but that's sort of like I picked something very innocent where I wasn't gonna cause harm to somebody, where I could take my frustration off and somebody could hear me. And then the
mm,
other moment that really was poignant was, again, I was at my wit's end because, we weren't getting the medical help that we were hoping to get for some of the symptoms that she was having. And I remember I'm very good at getting people to, help. And it wasn't happening that right way. And I remember it was this moment of I know, I knew this in every part of my being that God was just offering another opportunity for me to have more faith and have more trust and really live the values and live in the way that I believed. And I knew it.
Mm,
And I couldn't blame anybody or anything. I couldn't. I couldn't do it. And so for me, it's always about being willing to do the feels like you talked about and go deeper. Because whatever's in the way of that connectedness, that God consciousness, that source energy, that light is always there in a greater capacity. And right now on our planet, we are in an evolutionary acceleration, which means to me, and I see this energetically, because I do this myself, is where I step out of my old reality and step into a new one, quite literally. And so those are the things. It's like when I go deeper and allow that force to work, my higher mind, my God, whatever, and work its magic, it will, but I don't have control over what that looks like.
mm.
I don't. So I don't know if that answers your question. Deeper is the answer. Go deeper and allow God to
I
be
love it.
more.
I love it. And I appreciate that we're adding new examples, Janet, of how you and I apply these types of things in our lives because it's because it works. That's why we're bringing this up. That's why we're bringing in multiple examples because we know what this is like to and that's one of the reasons why we even wanted to do this series is we have some methods and some viewpoints that really have helped us be our light, our soulfulness, our source energy when things weren't going the way we wanted them to, when we
Mhm.
weren't manifesting what we wanted, what we wanted. We weren't healing our loved one from the stroke that they were experiencing and the effects of being in the ICU with, different professionals and hoping they're doing the right thing. We know it. We've lived it. Everybody's living an example of that. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's perfect.
Yes.
Um, there's something so helpful, and I would encourage people that are watching and listening to just take a moment because I feel like we all have little examples of this. Well, I shouldn't say little, big or small examples of
Mhm.
I know source energy is fully available to me when this is happening, when things are going this correct way in the world or in my life. Or I know source energy will be more available to me when this is resolved or that person is in office, right? And just like write it down. Those are assumptions. They really are. Those are assumptions and they are identifying your beliefs. Okay, so write it down. Write down as many as you need to. Pick the biggest, the ones that come first. The ones that come easiest to you are probably the most relevant. And then it's like, okay, so that's an assumption. What if what if God is fully available even though Trump just got elected and won every swing state? How about that? Right? It's like, whoa, 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 Jill, now you just crossed a major line with me, right? Just humor me, right? What if that's actually true?
Yeah.
What if it wasn't true that God being with America or God being with Americans or source energy in our light being fully present for us was not dependent on any certain person or any certain party winning different races in an election that happened in November 2024, right? Some are giggling with us because they're like, that's kind of a silly example. Oh, not to some people. I guarantee you that to some people listening to this, I hope it's actually to some people, they're like, I can't even listen anymore. I'm going into a panic attack just thinking about it. That's let the panic attack be real. Let yourself feel your heart and just breathe through it
Mhm.
because that truth is your alchemy.
Mhm.
The truth that source energy, your connection to source energy, your godliness and the godliness of humanity is
Mhm.
not in the balance. Some of the things that we are pretending it is,
Mhm.
right? there are some parents that are like, I can't do this if my child doesn't make it through this health crisis. I can't make it if I don't find a husband. I can't make it. I won't survive in this world if my, key relationship with so and so breaks up. You actually can. I know you can, but there's a part of you that doesn't know that yet.
Mhm.
And you are the best person to help that layer of you that doesn't know it. Consider it first, be curious about it, and then let it be true. That
Mm,
you will be okay. You can make yourself okay, even amidst those things not going the way you want it to. We are so resilient as humans, as soulful energy embodied as humans. We are so resilient. We have lived through so many things, survived so many things, right? So for those that have trauma, right, literal trauma from this lifetime or any other lifetime they feel connected to, there is always that part of us that's like, well, I'm never going to survive this. Like, we definitely can't make it through this. And there's a part of me that's just want to say, look what you've already made it through.
mm,
You are completely underestimating what your source energy is capable of being with you through.
mhm,
That's nothing but hopeful. That's nothing but strong and capable, and far more capable than our mind, body, spirit sometimes can grab a hold of when we need it most.
yeah, I agree, and I love that you said one of the, a very effective, thing to do is look at the hardest thing that has happened up to this point
Mm.
and tap into that. It's like,
Ah,
"It's me that did that." It's like, if I can
so
do
good.
that, I can do this. And we do that with ourselves, and then we think about people that we think aren't as strong as we are necessarily, and I look what they've been through, and they
Mm.
did it with bells on and whistles.
Or without bells on, and that's okay too. They still made it. They still survived it, right? With bells on or not.
It's true. There's no I
Right?
remember
So
there's
big.
a expression that, when we're trying new behavior or doing things that are we think are impossible, it doesn't have to be graceful necessarily. That's not a requ
Mm. Can be really bad. You could have dragged yourself across the finish line. I barely made it. You still made it. You still get the award for making it.
It's
I love what you just said because the list that I had encouraged people to ponder was, what do you currently feel like you're not going to make it through? Right.
yeah,
And I like that you've added an additional very important
yeah,
list, which is what in my memory was something I never thought I would make it through, and I actually did.
yeah.
Again, applying this to politics, I have a loved one I absolutely adore who is very, very loyally Democrat.
Mm.
I think they vote every election. Not sure about that, but I would hope so, given how uh, I want to say religious she is about her
Passionate,
politics.
they are.
I'm passionate, yeah, that too. But sometimes it's almost religious in the way it comes across.
Mm,
And she is in a full on depression about Trump winning. And I feel so much compassion for her. We haven't talked about it. And I don't know if we will talk about it. But for
mm,
what I would want to say to anybody that feels that way is, were you just as freaked out when George W. Bush got elected? Right? Because you made it through. And what were you sure was going to absolutely fall apart tragically by
mm,
him winning an election? And did it actually happen the way that you thought it would if they won? Okay, that would be step one. What did you think would happen when Trump was first elected? Right?
mm.
Some of those things may have actually come true that you were worried about. Sorry. I didn't vote for him, but I'm just saying, I'm sorry, meaning I'm compassionate that actually maybe it did actually go the way you worried it would. But we're still here, right? There's still things maybe moving in the right direction about some issues, and it didn't ruin us as a country. It's not the end of democracy, right? I've just heard so many things of, "Well, there goes democracy, there goes our country," and I was like, "Whoa, that's actually very extreme." The fact that our country won't survive another Trump presidency, I'm like, I definitely don't see it that way.
Mhm.
Um, I 100% don't see it that way. We are more than our president. We are more than all of the branches of government.
Mm.
It's just it's so unnecessary to be that extremist and that dramatic and that catastrophic about something that we have lived through some horrible administrations as a small young nation. Um, yeah, we can do this. Come on, let's be real.
Well, and the more that we allow that light, I mean, really, I do I wanna contribute to the problem or do I wanna contribute to the solution?
Mm,
And my depression is not helping.
no.
What about the people that I
Mm,
am here to interact with? What about the role I serve in this community? What about sort of my mission here or how I contribute to our overall
mm,
society? Am I really going to step back and not fulfill that role?
mm.
You know?
Use it to be motivating, right? If you're concerned about deportation of immigrants that have come here to the US through ways that are they're not it's it's not according to our constitution and our laws, then I mean, be generous, be charitable, yeah, be a contributor to those in your we probably all have citizen well, I shouldn't say citizens, but we have residents in our community that are not here legally, quote unquote. How do you want to support them? How do you want to encourage them? How do you want to help them go through the legal process of
Mhm.
becoming a citizen? There are, rather than focus on that branch of government is way beyond, our ability to talk to, take matters into your own hands in a legal, ethical, moral, productive way that
Mm,
is probably going to matter more than who you would have voted for or not anyway. That's
yeah.
probably going to feel better to you that, okay, I have a heart for this community. I'm passionate about this topic. So I'm going to do what I can. Yeah, do what you can. I do encourage you to do it legally. I
Mm,
don't like extremism on any side of the coin. I like balanced, thoughtful, mind, body, spirit actions that are very, well intended for everyone involved.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. There's a lot of community support that we can do for people that we think
Mm,
are threatened or could be
yeah.
harmed. We stand up for those people. That's what
Hmm.
we can do as
Yeah.
communities. That has
Mm,
proven in our current society to make a difference
hmm. Hmm.
when people say no, and I've seen that in community politics,
Hmm.
and that's why I like to really know, especially what's happening in my community, because
Yeah.
my vote really makes a big difference there with the people that I'm concerned about and, the people I know without homes that are hanging out across the
Hmm.
street and what's happening with them. And,
Yeah.
those people are my community.
It's good. Our actions personally matter far more than any vote we can cast.
Mhm.
Right? I know I'm in a red state, Idaho. And I live in a community, my county is actually 50-50, literally 51-49, 51
Mm,
Republican, 49% Democrat. And it has been a wild ride since the overturning of Roe v. Wade and leaving it up to the states. And that has, family planning, bringing children into the world that are wanted, intended to once they get here, be like, yes, I'm so glad you're here. That's very important to me, even soulfully.
mhm,
Um, so, communicating with um, friends that are my kids' age, they're 22 and 19, and that are in difficult circumstances, or supporting my kids and supporting their friends of friends that are in unfortunate situations of unplanned pregnancies, and okay, what are the choices? What are the options? What are they thinking about, right? Are they thinking about an adoption? Are they thinking about an abortion? Are they thinking about this? And just really helping an informed decision and, you know, just supporting people in the choices that we have in this world. And then on the other side, when I was having a great conversation with my 19-year-old about this in terms of access to safe and healthy abortions for the mothers and things like that, no matter what the situation was of conception. Um, there are so many steps as women we can take before it will get to that point, right?
Mhm,
So that is an important issue, but contraception is an important issue. Access to Plan B as a okay, I had this unprotected sex for however it happened, however it happened. And now what do I want to do? Right? What steps do I want to take? Where am I in my cycle? All of those things are we tend to take the most, well, we have to have this. Yes, it in my opinion, it is better to have access to things like that. But there's once we handle that issue, there's a lot of other related topics, right? Are you I mean, and this doesn't blame the victim at all, and I know I'm getting into a very sensitive subject, and I hope you're okay with it, Janet. But for so many women that end up in an unplanned pregnancy, yes, it can be through horrible circumstances of literally criminality, but it can also be, you know what? I didn't have control over myself. I was in the heat of the moment. I had too much to drink. I partook in some other, substance that clouded my judgment and clouded my decision making. And what was I thinking? Or I didn't want to tell them no, right? There are so many variables of personal authority.
mhm,
I want women of all ages to feel that personal authority for
mhm,
themselves,
mhm,
right? When we drink too much, if that is a common occurrence, or just like, well, I didn't want to tell him no, I kind of like him. You know what I mean?
mhm,
There are so many, we start to shut down our choices. And now with abortion not being legal in certain states, those earlier choices become even more relevant and important. And
mhm,
I don't want to discount that. Those are huge.
mhm.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry if and that's related, I know, to a lot of people that I'm close to. That topic of access to safe abortions, is and was a huge part of voting. Um, and I completely get it. Definitely affected my vote. And then there was the other part of Harris can't unwind what happened there. Literally, she can't. So even if Harris had won, she can't fix that. I mean, they do. There are Supreme Court justice appointments, and Trump did his thing, and that was a factor for sure. But it's just this is way more complicated than I think we want to pretend it is.
Yeah.
Sorry if I went deep dive on that, Janet. I totally just huge heart. I have friends that are devotedly pro-life, and I have friends that are pro-choice, and I have friends that are like, you know what? I don't even like the topic. I don't want to talk about it, Jill. And I love them all.
Yeah.
Um, there isn't, even in my heart, there is not one right answer, but I have a very strong opinion about it for my own reasons and my own just beliefs and philosophies. Yeah.
Well, I like the example of somebody being depressed and perhaps being
Mm,
depressed about that particular issue. And
mm,
then when you dive deeper into it, you're like, hang on a second.
mhm.
What the heck am I basing this on?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Like that doesn't make any sense at all that I am not going to live,
Mm,
that I am, not going to be able to live because of this. And look at all these other things that are going on, other choices,
mhm.
other options that I can put my heart into and feel good about. And that applies to so many different things. And that matters because if one person can really step
Mm,
out and grab that light more and be willing to to be open to not being depressed
mm,
and to not giving power over to one decision or one thing, that probably isn't gonna play out like we've talked about before. They think the way that they think it
Mhm,
is.
mhm,
And there's multiple things going on at a time, and I look at all those different layers personally all the time.
mm.
So, I know we're going way over today, so
I was just looking at the time too, like so
I
much
don't
for
know
our
how
goal
that
of being
happened, but
30 or 45 minutes. But we did pick a big one. We picked a really big topic. And again, going back to the list that we came up with earlier, the first step after you have whatever list you were doing there is that true? And
Mhm,
just being curious about the idea that the horrible version of that assumption is not true, that
mm,
we all have access directly and personally from within to source energy no matter what.
that's right.
That is always true, you guys. I we are Janet, is there how would you state that? Because I love how you put words on things.
It can't not be. It
Mm.
is our divine birthright that we are. God is within us, and we can't change that. We can pretend, but we
Mm.
can't change it. And we
And
can
it's true for
actually
everyone.
everyone, no matter who
True for
you are,
everyone. Even those who
everyone.
voted this way, even those who voted that way. Even those
Yeah,
who feel that way about this policy and this way about that policy. Yeah.
and it's interesting because people get so threatened, and when it really boils down, if we talk to both parties and people didn't, like, what are the most
Mm,
important things to you? Friends, family, security, well-being, roof over my heads, what both
mm.
parties have that in common.
Yes. That answer, that poll, that those votes are the same. We
Mhm,
all care about our families. We all care about a roof over our head. We all care about food on the table and healthy food on the table, right?
mhm,
We all care about those things. And in
mhm,
the political just system, those things are intentionally left out to
mhm,
intentionally polarize, to
mhm,
intentionally make voters and voting groups believe that the other group is they don't care about their families. They hate everyone. They hate their own people. It's just like it's so silly when you really look at it. We have so much more in common about things that really, really matter. And yes, we differ on policies. Yes, we differ on what's really wrong or what really, how to solve something. We're going to have differences on that. But when we lose ourselves and our sense of our mutual shared connection to source energy, we start to become fragmented, unbalanced, literally unwell. And I
mhm.
don't want that for anyone.
That's right. Fear driven. Fear does not get to make my decisions. It does not.
It doesn't. And it doesn't connect us to our source energy, doesn't connect us to anyone else's source energy, the source energy they are either. It's just completely unproductive. It's completely ineffective. And in my view, the best way to remedy that is what we're talking about here. You have to start evaluating and really being curious about what your thoughts and assumptions are before you can really look back at it from your source energy and go, oh my God, I was literally pretending that the person I know who voted this other way that I'm really, really mad about, I was actually pretending that they just ruined my life or that they just ruined the lives of this group of people that I care a lot about. That's not true.
Mhm.
It's literally not true. But, but,
That's
but, 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 oh, I just want to give all their thoughts
mhm,
the biggest hug, because our thoughts get tripped up within these assumptions. And when they're wrong, they cause problems, they cause depression, they cause dis-ease, and they cause separation that is completely unnecessary.
that's right. Oh, can we end, like, with a big hug here?
Mm,
Like, can we
yeah.
end with, like, let's just whatever our God essence is, whatever that is for each of us, let's
Oh,
just focus on that and make that bigger, and this is everybody that's ever gonna listen to this.
mm,
Like, let God be more, bigger than the
yeah.
problems. God is bigger than the problems that we see.
Mm. To every single thought we have, our source energy The attitude towards it is, I love that you think that's important. I love that you're making that important to you. I love you so much. I totally appreciate why you feel like that thought is the best thought you can have right now. Let me just give you a hug. That's where the source energy is for all of us with all our thoughts.
Ooh, that's good. Big breath on that. Woo.
Ah, that's freedom.
Yes, it is. And that's really our values: honor, respect,
Mm,
kindness, freedom, sovereignty.
mm. The other little footnote I want to add, you said something very beneficial earlier when you said it's our birthright that we
Mm,
all have access to our source energy. I would also add it's our definition, it's our
mm,
identity.
mm.
When the source energy is what you are, you can't not have access to it. We even had it before birth, where we have it in a transcendent way. The source energy is our identity. Our
Yes.
humanity is a current experience we're having
Yeah.
amidst the full and whole and inherently complete source energy that we also are
Yes.
all the time and beyond time.
Yes. Yes, I thought about this today. I've used it as an example many times, but if you look at a live body and you look at a dead body, you can
Mm.
really tell the difference.
You can what? I'm sorry.
Really tell the difference. Like we are source, we are animated as the
Yeah.
source that
Oh
we
my
are,
gosh.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, look what that does. Like
Yeah.
this is source here, and it
So
animates
big.
everything.
It's beautiful. It's morbid pun, but it's a good one, right? It's like here's a container, and here's a full container. What are you full of? Source. And it's in your expression of it, which is so cool that we have this
Unique.
opportunity
It
to
is
be our
beautiful,
own
unique.
unique expression of source within these unique containers that we help design.
And we can really
Wow.
appreciate the beauties in others too, which I deeply do. I
Mm.
respect and honor everybody here, regardless of your political beliefs, affiliations,
Mhm.
ideas about anything. It doesn't mean in my heart, in my
Mm.
mind, in my body that you are not completely amazing.
And completely source. What a shocker, right? A concept. I don't want to plug my own product,
Yeah,
but I do have a podcast that I did specifically related to healing and well-being amidst the election. I shared it for free, also
okay.
on my channel on YouTube, so it's there. If somebody wants more related to the election, and there's a channeled message in there from Mother Mary, which is
Uh,
very soothing and saving.
Beautiful. I ended up creating, I was gonna, the thing I did put out there was a short meditation about
Mm,
how to hold
mm,
your light and not be knocked off by anybody or anything.
mm.
Very energetically potent, working with the frequencies that are available to us now. And it's like 8 minutes or something. And you could leave
So
that
good.
on play and continue to listen to that in order to
Mm,
strengthen your own beingness as the source that you.
mm,
So yeah, plenty of tools out there. Use them. Please use them if they fit for you.
mm.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for any encouragement that you have for Janet and I. There's lots of times in this type of work, I've been doing it long enough, and Janet, you have too, where you're sort of like, did this help anyone today? If you feel like it was helpful, thank you so much for letting us know. It is very encouraging for us to keep going. There's a lot of podcasts in the world that have started and stopped because it sort of felt like nobody was listening or it wasn't making a difference and it wasn't helping anybody. So, for any of the podcasts and information sources that you feel benefit from, please let them know. It just, yeah, we're all humans as well as the source energy that we are. So, thank you for that. Thank you for signing up for each of our newsletters. I like the system that we have, Janet, where we're trading off like, okay, first your newsletter will get it before it goes public. on YouTube and then mine. And I met with a client that she hadn't booked a session in 2 years, and she said, "Yep, I signed up for Janet's newsletter too. I'm loving the podcast." I'm like, "Yay!"
Oh,
So
it's
anyway, I love that that is because our newsletters are one way that we support ourselves literally through the products that we sell and services that we our products slash services that we sell. So that's helpful. And you guys, Janet's
Mhm.
offerings are so helpful. And maybe in the next podcast, we talk a little bit about the services that we offer, because if they're loving what
Mm.
we're doing, they might also find surprising amount of benefit from the consultations and the session work that you do. And
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
for me too. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We
Okay.
both have our own very unique, very potent
Mm,
gifts. And yeah, and it's
mm,
wow. I mean, that's just God, right? It's heart to heart,
mm.
God to God. Let's just really be more.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, good.
All right,
Thanks, Janet.
everybody.
So good to see you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.
Okay. Bye.